This address is about defining moments and synchronicity. What is a defining moment? Simply, it is a time when one action taken leads to a series of consequences, often known, but more frequently not, that results in a crucial moment or a turning point. For instance, in 1909, the property owned by Mrs. Simon Reed was purchased for $50,000 and was renovated for an additional $38,000. It was a defining moment that Multnomah County would have its first 65-bed hospital. Could the vision have existed then of a 537-bed OHSU comprehensive academic health sciences center possibly been envisioned from this defining moment? The training school for nurses ran in parallel to the development of the hospital. It was a defining moment when Mrs. A.B.Y. Spalding, a graduate of the Illinois Training School for Nurses in Chicago, Illinois, planned the curriculum, designed the cap that was worn then, and uniform, and ensured that standards of nursing education from across the country were upheld, so that on June 12, 1911, the first class of nurses graduated just down the street from here at the First Congregational Church. So Opal Barnes, Elizabeth Blatter, Emma Hodgson, Edith Keith, Edith Matson, Loda Peck, and Isabel Wallace, in accepting that diploma, created a defining moment. Could they have envisioned that over 11,000 graduates would follow them, pursuing diplomas and then degrees as high as at the doctoral level? The thing about a defining moment is that we aren't always aware and realize it when we're having one. Yes, sometimes it's obvious as when a natural disaster occurs and life is forever altered. But there are far more subtle ones that fill each and every day. For those of us in healthcare, we shape and intersect with patients, families, neighborhoods, communities, and the larger society all the time. When we announce a diagnosis, prevent an accident, immunize a community, or discover a new treatment, or engage in an act of charity and caring, up to and including a gentle touch or a whisper at the time of death. These may or may not be defining moments for us. We might think of them as just what I do as a nurse, or a part of what I'm expected to do, want to do, or am authorized to do. But for those we intersect with, those individuals in our care, are far more likely to relate to these events as their defining moments for years to come. Each of you here had a defining moment the day you were born. Each of you graduating have surely had defining moments throughout your education and the clinical experiences that you've had together in the simulation lab, the research venue, or the clinical sites where you serve. Defining moments can also come virtually, as some of you know very well from our virtual campus, and you've connected your lives in this virtual world that we live in. As you graduate, I hope that you celebrate with your family and friends this defining moment that we call graduation, and recount the defining moments that have influenced your life to date. You will find that these defining moments unveil the character traits that make each of you unique. They are moments of action taken with others. Nursing is not just an intellectual pursuit, although a substantial and complex body of knowledge undergirds the discipline. It is an action pursuit, an engagement pursuit, and it can only happen in the presence of others. Being alone and isolated, it just isn't a nursing pursuit. It can only happen through an energy that each of you give freely to others. Now, you all know that I love this discipline because it is filled with defining moments. Physicians study, diagnose, and treat disease. This is an incredible asset to our society. Physical therapists specialize and focus on mobility and movement. Occupational therapists are specialists in how people function to carry out daily living. Social workers are trained to intersect with the family and keep the family cohesive. But nurses have always embraced understanding of each of those components in one. Independently, our discipline has always connected to the whole person, not just the ill components that may constitute the diseased body. Instead, we have always intentionally studied how to strengthen the psyche, the spirit, and the social aspects of humanity while attending to and experiencing the family and the community. This is the strength we bring to the health sciences. We can contextualize the human experience. Even the ICU nurse titrating drips that keeps the patient alive on a moment-to-moment basis has been hardwired to know that the outcome, beyond immediate survival, is to restore well-being to the person, who can then resume family goals and optimally function to enjoy the quality of life. This is our hardwiring. As nurses, we know that physiological death may occur, but the patient can be psychosocial and spiritually intact, and that leads to a peaceful transition. It's our hardwiring. When we conduct our science, even from the bench, we know that the results of our cellular work will be elevated to the bedside and eventually to the quality of life and living. This is our hardwiring. It defines why nurses must be supported, encouraged, and present at various levels at important tables, from the living room of families to the boardroom to the state house. As I graduate, I trust that the defining moments throughout your OHSU education have taught you more than right from wrong. I know you've done that. I hope that what we've taught you is how to differentiate right from right. Now, what do I mean by that? When Megan McFarland graduates as a family nurse practitioner and treats a child with strep in a clinic, knowing that there are 3 other children at home with the same symptoms, I trust that she will rightly treat the child at hand, but also ensure that she uses her knowledge of the health system to get others cared for as well. When Jeremiah Johnson, a Monmouth Bachelor of Science graduate, accommodates a patient's last wishes, and the hospital's rules need to be stretched to do so, I expect he has the knowledge and fortitude to make it right. When Carolyn Mackey, a Portland Bachelor of Science graduate, needs to cajole a physician because of her intuition that the patient has something off kilter, happening in spite of healthy vital signs and lab values, that she will be tenacious in her duty. In each scenario, one could get by without pushing the system, following the rules, or defying intuitive knowing. Technically, you would all be right to do so. But the likes of faculty like Marcia Hines, Sheila Kadak, Brett Lyman, Ann Nielsen, and all of these others, they would expect more of an OHSU graduate. Call it leadership. Call it contextual knowledge. Call it self-confidence. But whatever you choose to name it, it will define you and your practice. One other aspect of nursing that often does not get enough attention is the concept of synchrony and synchronicity. In the world of biology, we see marvelous examples of synchrony every day. The seasons of the year follow a defined pattern. Our hearts beat in sync to perfuse our bodies, don't they, Fred McNeil? Even in disease, it takes a collective disruptive pattern to create the situation for a seizure to occur. Then there are those moments of happenstance when you contemplate calling someone on your cell phone at the exact moment when the phone rings, and it's the person that you were about to call. Or when you notice that your car blinker is in the same rhythmical pattern as the turning car ahead of you. And for that moment, you notice the conjoining events. Synchronicity is a bit different. A more classic definition suggests that it's when a relationship exists between ideas, or when relationships spring forth such that in the unplanned moment, a deep knowing occurs. Nurses, and especially women, have sometimes labeled these kinds of synchronous moments with patients as intuition or a caring presence, an ability to relate with a sense of connected purpose. In both the case of being in sync and then in capturing the essence of synchronicity, which is being in relationship, this is what provides the foundation for what's considered the art of nursing. Here is my wish for you, and what I acknowledge today as you receive your diploma and pin. You have been fortunate to have an A-rated and award-winning faculty present with you during defining professional moments, and you have experienced synchrony with them. I trust that you have encountered and deeply appreciate the synchronicity that comes from being in relationship with the public we serve, whether individually, in families, or communities. As you accept your diploma, you have competencies demonstrated that fulfill both the art and the science of our discipline. Your hardwiring is more intact and in tune than when you began this educational journey. Continue to take reflective time each day in your beginning or expanded nursing career to think about and revel in the defining moments you have had or have created for others. This will reinforce your purpose for being a nurse. Be aware of the convergence of energy that it will take for the healthcare delivery system to be in sync with the real needs that the public has for nursing. And extend your energy to care for the system as well as the patients. Advocate. Represent those whose voices need to be heard, especially the underserved and other oppressed groups. Finally, increase your awareness to the power of synchronicity, knowing that through the power of the relationship, that nursing is at its finest. Godspeed as you move to these next chapters of your remarkable